Hi, I'm Dave Herring, and this is another instalment in a series of interviews I'm doing for Arc'teryx, talking to people from the backcountry community with a story to tell. This week we're going to have a chat with Craig Sheppard. Craig is a Canadian Avalanche Association Operational Level 3. He's a professional member of the Canadian Avalanche Association for 15 years and is a member of the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides. He brings with him an incredible amount of experience and knowledge to our community, and we welcome him. He has been a forecaster at Lake Louise for over 10 years, and he's a course instructor for operational levels 1 and 2. So welcome, Craig. I'll just ask you to say good day and maybe tell us a little bit about yourselves, a 1-minute life story kind of thing, and we'll get into it.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Dave. Yeah, like you said, here I am in Australia. Who would have thunk? But when you're young and in love and marry an Australian girl, here you are. But I actually grew up in central Canada in Ontario. So I moved around quite a bit, but I was fortunate when at the age of 17, I started working for Parks Ontario. And when I was living in these little communities in Ontario, there weren't many organized sports. So I really gravitated towards mountain biking, canoeing, camping, hiking, and then eventually skiing. So my background's a bit different, is that I didn't really come into skiing until a bit later in life.
Yeah. And so what about backcountry? When did that start?
Well, that was, I guess it was kind of in the 90s. So my mom wouldn't let me ski when I was a kid, funny enough, because she thought I was going to break my leg. And so instead I grew up cross-country skiing. But then after finishing university, like you said, I did my undergrad in psychology. So after finishing university, I took a gap year, as they say here, and moved to Lake Louise, Alberta, which is in the heart of Canadian Rockies.
Yeah.
And I got my taste of backcountry skiing there. I mostly did just little trips that are close to the ski area.
Yeah.
I think some people refer to that as the slack country, but to be honest, Dave, in Canada, we've really been trying to make a point that it's all backcountry.
Absolutely.
And once you leave the safety of the resorts, regardless of how easy or convenient it is to get there, it's backcountry, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where I kind of got my start. In about 1996, I moved to Lake
So
Louise.
were you working in the industry then?
Yeah, but I was just working at the ski resort. So not in the industry. I just had a entry-level job at a ski resort and was there for just to ski and have fun.
Yeah. So how did the career evolve?
Well, after that, after Lake Louise, I moved to a smaller town called Roslyn, British Columbia, and maybe some people have heard of Red Mountain. And so I did my first recreational avalanche course there. So right now we have in Canada, the AST, the Avalanche Skills Training. The predecessor to that course was called the RAC, or the Recreational Avalanche Course. And so in Roslyn at Red Mountain there in about 1998, I think it was, I did my first recreational avalanche course. And then I ended up moving back to Lake Louise a couple of years later in 99, 2000. And that's when I first got hired onto the ski patrol. And that's when I decided, okay, this is something I want to do. Yeah. And I ended up doing my Canadian Avalanche Association Operations Level 1 that year. And then in 2003, I had an opportunity to come down to New Zealand and run a small program at a place called Mount Cheeseman outside of Christchurch. And in that year, in 2003, I ended up doing the New Zealand Stage 2 program. Yeah. Right. So I actually did my Level 2 in New Zealand, and but I did that because New Zealand had got the intellectual property from Canada, and Canada recognized the Stage 2 in New Zealand, and vice versa. And so I was able to go back to Lake Louise with the Stage 2, and then that made me eligible to work on the avalanche control team. Because the way it works at Lake Louise is we have a dedicated avalanche control team that is a part of the ski patrol. But the way I describe it to people is a ski patroller probably does like 80% of their day of marking hazards and responding to accidents and helping people out, and maybe 20% of their day avalanche related work. And avalanche control is the opposite. It's like maybe 80% of our day on avalanche related activities. And so in 2003, I went back from New Zealand with my Level 2 and joined the avalanche control team.
Yeah. So that's to to get to where you are as a level 3, what's the next step?
Great question. Well, you know, I'm a bit of a strong believer in CPD, like continued professional development. And if there's a course to take, I'll take it. And especially being at Lake Louise, they're super supportive in that sense of trying to make sure that you take your continued professional development. So over the years, I did the Mod 1 of the Level 2, which is really a human decision-making course as a CPD course. And I did the avalanche mapping course as a CPD course. And then, so I signed up and I did the Level 3 course. And the Level 3 course, they kind of say it's your thesis within the avalanche world. And you take the whole season, you have a course at the beginning of the season that talks about the concepts, a lot about risk. And then you go through your season, and then at the end you write a paper about how the concepts that were introduced to you in the fall and the autumn, then how that related to your whole season. Yeah. And then you defend it. So you have to write a written paper, and then you have to give an oral presentation, and then you have question and answer. So it was a great process.
Yeah, look, I understand how big it is, and all credit to you to get through it. It's massive. So was Rocket Miller in Lake Louise in those days? Do you know Rocket Miller?
Yeah, of course. Rocket and I still text regularly. I mean, Dave Isles was the forecaster, and Rocket Miller was the assistant forecaster when I first started at Lake Louise. Oh. And then Dave Isles and his family moved to Whistler, and Rocket became the forecaster, and I became the assistant forecaster. And then Rocket had an opportunity to move up to operations manager within the Lake Louise Ski Resort, and that's where he still is in that role. And when he moved to the operations manager, I ran the program. So yeah, Rocket and I, 12 years every day with that guy on the mountains.
That's funny, because in our AST1 course at Alpine Access, we show a video of him doing, you've probably seen it, doing the companion rescue. And I love Rocket. He's just so funny. That is a funny video. And so I've aimed to run after him in
oh, yeah?
Yeah. So
cool.
There you go.
Well, when I'm down there, then please let's go to that run so I can let Rocket know that Rocket. Yeah, I was there filming with they're called Sherpa cinemas now, Rocky Mountain Sherpas. Anyway, they're called Sherpa cinemas. Yeah. And when Rocket's doing that and he's digging for the person, that's my hand. I'm the one under the snow.
Really? Huh.
Yes.
That's classic. We also had on one of our courses an Aussie girl who was his nanny. So, it's a small world.
He's a great guy, absolutely great guy. Big love laughs. Dave Isles, Rocket, the team at the lake. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason I stay there so many years. It's just like
he's a legend.
He's around to remain.
Yeah. So, Craig, what's your current status now in Australia? Now you're here, and I know you haven't kept up your credentials for the professional status. Where's it at for you at the moment? What's going on?
Well, the way it works for the Canadian Avalanche Association is that you need to work 4 of the last 6 years full-time in the avalanche sector to maintain your professional membership. So now I'm down to 3 of the last 6 years I've worked full-time. So I can't be a professional member with the Canadian Avalanche Association anymore, but I can be an active member. And I plan on maintaining my active member status so that I can teach courses down here, and I'd like to stay involved. But so yeah, my status is for family reasons. Look, we're living in Sydney. We kind of have shaken things up and that sort of thing. I have been down to the Snowy Mountains several times kind of over the years, and I would say I'm quite smitten by them, to be honest. I think they're quite unique and beautiful, and I've had the good fortune to go to Charlotte's Pass. And I mean, I think that place has great access, and I have my wife has a large family who all loves adventure, and I also was a apprentice ski guide for the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides for a long time, so I have done a lot of guiding. Yep. No, that's all right. Yeah, but I guided between 2006 and 2018 or something like that. But anyway, the point being is that my in-laws are always up for adventure. My brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. And so they would just take turns of me taking them out for walks in the backcountry. And so I look forward to doing more. Like I say, it's a beautiful area. And I look at backcountry skiing as kind of like some people look at fishing. Look, like going out fishing is great. If you catch a fish, that's even better. and backcountry skiing, if I'm walking in the mountains, I'm happy as Larry.
Yeah.
And if the turns are pretty good, then that's the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Same. Absolutely the same. So, what just your daily chores and responsibilities as a Abbey forecaster in Canada? Can you just run through what your day's like?
Yeah, sure. It's they started fairly early, but the day started off with gathering information. So we had telemetry, remote telemetry, and I'd get to the office an hour ahead of the team, and that hour was my time to download the weather and see what's changed overnight. And then also in that hour, then I was formulating a plan of what were we going to do that day. In the ski resort, it's obviously a little bit different than in the backcountry scenario or into a mechanized skiing scenario or a ski touring scenario. But at the ski resort, we broke the terrain up into kind of 3 sections. Terrain that we've worked heavily and is open to public. Terrain that we've done a little bit of work in, but we're not quite confident or the conditions aren't good yet. And then terrain that we haven't done anything. So more or less, it's just backcountry. It's an unaltered snowpack. Yeah. And so depending on what happened overnight would depend on whether we need to go out with explosives or we're going to go out ski cutting or we're going to close certain areas. Look, I know that they don't use explosives here in Australia, but Canada relies heavily upon them, both in all the guiding applications, not all, but in some guiding applications. The highways rely on explosives and the ski resorts rely on a lot of explosives because we just need to get the hazard out and away. But yeah, so an hour to make up the plan, and then the team would come in, and then we would sit down and have a morning meeting and discuss the plan. Any questions? Obviously, it was a team effort, so I made the plan. But if someone said, "Hey, what about this? What do you think about that?" Like, I'm all for that. I'm all for communication. And then out the door we go, get the train open. We'd always start in the middle and start working our way out. So kind of get the core open so we can get people moving through, like logistically through the mountains. And and then otherwise we'd have chores like, there's always all the paperwork at the end of the day, moving bombs around that need to be moved. And then you never know what wrench is going to be thrown in the plan if there's an accident or a call or that sort of thing. Yeah. So we'd be ready to respond to those too.
Yeah. Yeah. So with your association with the Canadian Avalanche Association, can you explain for us the relationship they have with Av Canada and how that all works?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. And I'll just make reference because you were talking about the level 1 and level 2 at the beginning of this interview and saying AvCan. Avalanche Canada is for the recreational side of the industry, and the Canadian Avalanche Association is for the professional side. And then there's one other piece of the puzzle, and that's the Canadian Avalanche Foundation. And they do a lot of fundraising to support Avalanche Canada and the Canadian Avalanche Association. Yeah. The Canadian Avalanche Association supports the professionals. So that supports the guides and the highways and the ski patrollers. And they offer professional level courses, operational courses. So they offer the operations level 1, the level 2, the mapping. I'm going to be missing some. They have a lot. You can go to their website. You can go to their website and see all the courses, but they're all the professional level courses. Yeah. And then Avalanche Canada does the recreational side. So they offer the AST, the Avalanche Skills Training, and the AST2. And they also provide a backcountry bulletin for the areas of Western Canada. And also there's some bulletins that happen in Eastern Canada and Quebec and Newfoundland. So
it's an incredible network, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how those break up. And I mostly worked for the Canadian Avalanche Association, although over the years I've taught many AST courses as well, either for my own people or for other guides, clients, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So you still, even when you're working, you still, on your days off, you got out touring in that area?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
The smile comes on his face.
Oh, just when you're young and there's no commitments and family and kids and all that in the mix. Like I used to just ski every day of the winter, and then I go down to the New Zealand and then ski down there, and so hundreds and hundreds of days of skiing. And I never resort skied because I would resort ski for work. Like that was my job. So 5 days a week, 4 days a week, I'd be at the resort. So the other 2 or 3 days I was in the backcountry. And I guess I don't know whether I was fortunate or you make your own fortune, but like I said, I just loved being out there, and I love education, and so it was really a good mix for me.
Yeah, fantastic. And so have you got any Abbey stories you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, one or two.
I bet you do.
I don't know what makes a good Avi story, but and Rocket's been there for a couple of them. But look, I think from avalanche stories, the important thing for me is always what comes out of them and what can we learn from them.
Yeah.
And when you did your level one, I believe you said you did in Fernie. I'm not sure if any of your instructors had an opportunity to give a case study.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had Rick,
Yeah.
Who was just fantastic.
Yeah. Rick Schrader's a fantastic individual for sure. I've had the good fortune to work a lot of courses with Rick.
Yes.
But my point being is that I'm happy to share case studies and my mistakes in hopes that there's learning. But in 2010, so in Lake Louise, I was there on the avalanche control team for 12 years, and I did have 3 incidents. 2 of the incidents were kind of small avalanches, not too much, just kind of being swept on my side for 50 meters, 100 meters. But there was one in 2010 where I ended up on the wrong side of a cornice, and the cornice fell off, and then went over a small rock band, quite small, and then onto a slope, triggered a small avalanche, about size 1.5, and kind of tomahawked down until I could get my skis off and fight and get off the thing. And thankfully, everything ended up okay. I could get my gear back on and continue on with the day. But when I would present this on the level 1 course, and the thing that was really interesting about that day was the decisions that led me to there. Yeah. And human factors, obviously, are so important in all this. And in 2010, it was a La Nina year, and in Lake Louise, La Nina, big snow, and it was at the end of a big cycle, and so fatigue was part of that. And I have a daughter whose name is Nina, named after La Nina. She's a pretty stormy little individual. That's another story. But in 2010, when this accident happened, I had 2 kids under the age of 2. So yeah, I was sleep deprived. I was tired, and I had 2 decisions. And decision A was really easy: take off the ski, put them over the shoulder, hike up through the rocks, go around the thing, and then continue on. And decision number 2 was to just quickly scoot around the corner. Don't have to take off your skis. And I thought I could do it. Visibility wasn't great, and I thought wrong.
So human factors are a real focal point of avalanche and backcountry skills training these days. And so, as a psychology major, how do you teach people about this reality? What's your take-home point here for people?
I think that the more we learn about our decision making, maybe we'll get better at identifying it in the middle of it. But when you're in the middle of things, it's really hard to do that. But so I don't really have a number 1 tip, but I think we're on the right side of things in terms of just opening up the discussion. Like,
absolutely.
From the mid 90s to now, I've seen a lot of change in the industry, and there's a lot more openness, a lot more discussion, a lot more just willing to say stuff. It's no longer just swept under the carpet of whatever, stuff happens, and let's keep moving. So look, I think it's a lifetime of learning, really, and it's a complex, dynamic environment.
Absolutely.
So I think people need to be prepared for the unexpected, be humble, go with others who you can learn with, but just ensure that everyone's voice can be heard. I've also had other near misses where the group was too big, the communication was terrible, and we ended up in a place where we shouldn't have ended up, and triggered a slope, and just luckily everyone was okay. So I don't know if I'm answering your question right, but I just think
so. Look, there's lots of stats out there now about 90% of fatalities or incidents, AVI incidences, it doesn't matter how much you know. The point is, it doesn't matter how much you know about the snowpack and all the technical side of things. If you make the wrong call, it's going to bite you, you know. And it's a massive part of it. Work really hard.
Yeah. And
So,
we try to, like, as professionals, we try to put a lot of stop checks in place, right? There's the guides meeting, there's the discussions, there's a reevaluation, there's communication throughout the day in the field. If anything abnormal has come up that we weren't expecting, and we do it well, but we are also still human. So.
Yeah. Look, we preach the daily process, which is a fantastic initiative from Airlines Canada for their recreational courses, and it's really the checklists and those sorts of things that what keep guys like us that are out there all the time, and anyone in risk industries, anyone with risk in their work needs to have that sort of program in place. So, but what's your favourite ski destination? Where do you want to go? What's on your bucket list? What's coming up?
That's a tough question.
For a while.
That's a tough question. Look, obviously my heart is near and dear to Lake Louise. I know that place like the back of my hand, and so I can ski it well on all conditions. I love that place. Some of the best resort skiing I've had, though, was actually in Utah. That sort of classic. Sorry, it was in inches. So, but 20 to 30 centimeters every night, just light snow. So I really love Snowbird and Alta.
Yeah. Solitude.
Yeah. So I've never been to Solitude. It's good.
I just love the name.
Yeah. And then ski touring in British Columbia, in central British Columbia, in the Selkirks. Yeah. There's great ski touring around Rogers Pass. There's lots of backcountry lodges and that sort of place. And as for bucket list, I guess I haven't really done much in Europe. So, I'd love to go to the Haute route and drink lots of wine, eat lots of cheese, and be in some amazing mountains.
I've got a good friend who guides the Haute route. I can't wait to do it, but got to find the time. So what about Japan?
Yeah, I would like to go to Japan. I've never been. I mean, obviously that's on the radar of a lot of folks now, both here in Australia and in Canada. A lot of Canadians going up there and doing stuff over there. I figured now that I'm in Australia, I'll have to go to Japan.
Yeah, well, you have to come and join us over there, mate. We'll see what we can do. With the current situation in Australia, with there's no lack of professional forecasting and the increase in backcountry traffic. What's your take on a good way forward for us? I know you've been talking to the guys at Mountain Sports Collective a bit, and how's that going to progress for you? Do you think?
Well, I want to be involved. Looks like first things first is I'm here, and I'd love to use the experience I have from Canada and my background to try to jump in. I've seen a lot of change, even myself though, in Australia, which I think is great. Like I said, I've been to Charles Pass. The first time I went to Charles Pass don't even remember, but I remember going into the stores and saying, "Can I find any gear? Can I rent any gear?" And I was like, "No, you don't need it. There's no such thing as avalanches. You don't need it." And so now to even go in the shops and see beacons, see shovels, see probes, see the gear, that's great, right? To have the MSC doing what they're doing already is great. To have some government agencies kind of interested is fantastic. So. And there seems to be lots of folks like yourself and companies that are getting people out there. And I mean, my circles in Sydney are small, but the people that I talk to all want to get into the backcountry.
Sure.
So it is up and coming. It does remind me of Canada in years past. I think Canada, I mean, it's apples and oranges a little bit, but there are some similarities that I see through the conversations I've had of need to kind of get some regulations in place here and get some systems to keep the information flowing to the public so that they can be well informed. And maybe some specific things here in Australia too that you might deal with a little bit more than we do in Canada, or some things in Canada you deal with less. So we'll see how that progresses. But what I'm seeing is good, and what you're doing. And thanks for this. This is great.
Yeah, so look, having you on our team is just fantastic, Craig. We've been waiting for someone like you to walk in the door for a few years now. Yeah, for Mountain Sports Collective and Alpine Access, hopefully you're hanging around with us this year a fair bit. When we first started out doing AST1 training in Australia, we got a bit of a hard time from a few of the old school guys. There's no Abbeys in Australia, blah, 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 blah. And all this. You're just trying to sell courses. And, I was just trying to retire. I was just, keeping fit and doing the thing and doing what I enjoy. Went off and got trained. Now it's gone nuts.
Mm.
We sell out pretty much every year. And even right now in the middle of COVID with the regulations relaxing a bit, we've got a lot of inquiries. So we're looking forward to another year.
Well, there's a serious near miss last year too with that guy, Etheridge Ridge, size 3, year accidental, partially buried. Like that's real.
And that's a great story for those that don't know it. This is a young guy who did a course with us midweek. 3 days later, he went out and we'd had a lot of snow for Australia. And he skied a slope at about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning and went off and skied elsewhere. And he came back at 3 minutes past 12 and the sun had been on it. And as soon as he stepped out, he actually was climbing back up and the whole thing let go. And it's the biggest thing I've seen in Australia by a long, long way. And just, I'm sure there's been bigger slides out on the Western Faces, but we don't all get to see those all the time. This was in very accessible terrain. So it's happening. And as the weather and as our weather systems change, and from getting consistent snowfalls all through the season to getting less regular, bigger dumps, this is what we're looking at: is more dangerous Abbey cyclists coming through few times a year, probably.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, fantastic talking to you and hearing your story, and looking forward to what you contribute to the Australian industry and everything we're trying to get going here. There's a long way to go, and it's a lot of it's about getting the support from and financing. MSC is still a volunteer organisation, and right at the moment, there's not a lot of money floating around for groups like ours, but we'll see where it goes this year. So just a couple of generic questions I ask everybody to finish up. What your favourite ski film?
I'm going to go fully cheesy here. Aspen Extreme, DJ Burke, Dexter. It's not the best skiing film, but those two guys were from Detroit, Michigan, and all they wanted to do was move out west. And I was going to the University of Windsor, right across the border from Detroit, Michigan. All I wanted to do is move out west. So that film spoke to me.
Okay. And what about your favorite skier?
Oh, geez, that's a great question. Probably my wife.
Right, nice. So
she's a much better skier than me. Yeah. Daddy's the strong skier, Mummy's the pretty skier.
Yeah, I deal with the same situation. Classic. I can pick my wife on the mountain from miles away. So there you go.
Nice.
So what have you been watching on TV and or Netflix, or what have you been doing? How have you dealt with COVID?
Well, I've been kind of trying to stay busy around the home, doing renovations, that sort of thing. But
that's the right answer. But what's the real answer?
Oh, look, my kids love Lego Masters, so we've watched that series together. And then when the kids go to sleep, my wife and I just finished Ozark, which is fairly dark, but I enjoyed that. And now I think I'm just on to something light called Community, which is just a little 30-minute sitcom thing. So.
Okay. And if Craig, if you were to have a different job, what would it be?
I think one of two things. Either like given that our industry is seasonal, I've worked for parks since I was 17, like I was saying earlier. so I would still work doing something out in nature, And something that I believe in. Like, I think parks is great for how they protect our environment and try to keep it for years to come. So that, and I also like doing things with my hands. So I've always kind of wanted to do carpentry stuff, and I hear that you're pretty handy in that department. So maybe I can learn some things, some tricks from you.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I'm retired.
Yeah.
Turned into a ski bum. Well, really great talking to you, mate. And look, I'd like to think we might do this again, maybe another time through the season when a few things have happened. We've got a bit more to talk about. So for now, take care and get back onto building those mountain bike trails while you got time.
Yeah, thanks.
And we'll have you up there. So actually, I've got one more question that I meant to ask you. So I'm going to ask it before you go quickly. You know, as you approach a place where you haven't skied before, and this is just something for people to take home, you haven't got a lot of experience in Australia yet. How do you approach that when you turn up to somewhere like the New and you're heading out?
Well, it's a great question. And I mean, first of all, is research. You know, I love maps. Maps to me say adventure. And so I love looking at topographic maps. But look, that's morphed a little bit. So I definitely use other resources. I just downloaded an app called FatMap the other day. FatMap has great data images from the snowy mountains. So I do a lot of research. Anyway, looking at maps, looking at Google Earth, looking at different apps, that sort of thing. And then whenever I go to a new area, I approach it cautiously, right? Like, one of the things I love, excuse me, about ski touring is the pace at how we travel through the mountains, and we can just gather so much information as we're walking. And so as I go into a new area, I'm trying to gather information all the way as I go. And then I don't just jump into things without being informed and without kind of trying to figure things out. I was thinking about this the other day, Dave, because right now the ocean's going off, right? Like, absolutely, what rogue 10-meter waves, and I live near the beach in Sydney, which is great. And when you look at the ocean, sometimes the ocean just says, "Come on in, have a dip, let's just play." And then right now the ocean's like, "Whoa, stay back, stay away," right? The mountains are similar, but the mountains, you just have to fine tune how you look at them, or you have to dig a little bit deeper for the information. But the mountains, there's times when it says, "Yeah, now's the time, let's go play." And there are times when it's like, "No, now's not the time." So maybe that's an analogy for all the Aussies out there that we're going to take to the mountains this year. It's like, we got to learn how to see them. But anyway, that's how I approach it. Lots of research, talking to folks like you that know it like the back of your hand, and then going out there the day of and just being really cautious, starting cautiously. And if confidence increases from what I've seen, then getting into maybe more interesting things, aggressive things. But it also depends on who I'm with, right? Yep. Some of my best days around the mountains, I haven't skied very much, and we've been on 25-degree slopes, but I've loved the company I'm with. So
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use an ocean analogy as well in the courses sometimes, and I think I might have told you the other day. It's if foreigners turn up to Australia and they love to go to the beach, and they go down and they jump in and they get caught in a rip and they're gone, whereas the experienced surfer comes down and he walks up and he paddles out and gets in the lineup without even getting his hair wet. You know, it's just getting you got to have time. You got to learn to understand, and like you say, the mountains talk to you. So anyway, mate, great chat. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. So thanks again.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Right.